Hello, and welcome to another episode of My Golden Life. I'm Lisa Neller, your host. And today we are going to talk about the struggle of modern dating. And we're going to ask questions like, does online dating even work? And how can I meet people organically? And this is really for all women, but we're talking to women in the second half of life primarily, but I think it all applies because women of all ages are dating. And I have a special guest, an expert in dating and relationships, and I'm going to introduce her. Her name is Whitney Kobrin. And Whitney is a dating and relationship expert and love coach who has transformed the love lives of hundreds of women. Whitney blends decades of experience overcoming her own dating and relationship challenges with professional training in psychology, life coaching, and somatic trauma therapy. She is also the proud producer of her app and podcast, Life Coach in My Pocket, which she will talk about a little bit later in the episode. Whitney has been featured on Amazon TV, Roku, MSN.com, and many other outlets, spreading her empowering message that modern dating is frustrating, but love is still worth it. Oh, I love that. Drawing on her past experience as a matchmaker, she teaches practical dating skills for today's complex world. Then she takes clients deeper into the inner work needed to love yourself, heal damaging patterns, and attract the high caliber partner you truly deserve. Whitney's unique approach compassionately addresses the whole self: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. We are so excited to welcome Whitney. So, welcome, Whitney. Thanks
Hi,
for being here.
Lisa. Thank you so much. Loved your introduction there. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm so happy to have you on this show because this is really a popular topic and people are always looking for their person, right? So, the first thing I'd like to do is really hear your story. Like, tell us about you, tell us the challenges that you had, and I'm just going to let you go with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was not always an expert at dating and relationships. In fact, far from it. I struggled a lot. I had my own issues that I wasn't really aware of. I was an anxious dater. I came across as needy. I didn't know how to communicate my needs well. I often felt like I was always either settling for someone that didn't really feel like they were an equal, or I was chasing after somebody that I felt less than. And I see this a lot with women in dating where it's like the guys that like me, that are chasing after me, I don't like and I'm not interested in. But the guys that I actually like, they're not interested in me. There's like this mismatch that's happening.
Yeah.
And I had my son in my early 20s. I was in a toxic relationship with his father, was single mom dating and really struggling with my own life, with stress, with meeting the wrong kinds of people, just not having healthy relationships. And finally, I found a coach that I started learning from. And this was so long ago that we didn't have online programs. She would send a CD to my house every month, and I would listen to her interview series, one CD at a time, 1 month at a time. And it was
Wow.
right.
You just took
Imagine.
me back.
Yeah.
I remember.
Um, And it just really started to sink in with me. I started learning about masculine and feminine energies and about communication and how to speak up for myself, and that I wasn't needy. I was just human and had needs. And it's okay for us to have needs. We just need to know how to communicate them and how to find somebody that can care enough and be capable of meeting them. And so working through that, learning from this coach and also therapy, I felt a massive shift. And that's when I met and attracted my husband. And unfortunately, after 5 years together, my husband passed away.
Mm,
And this was in 2017. He was only 37, very young, definitely before his time. He, he passed away in his sleep after what was supposed to be a routine back surgery. So it was just a total shock.
devastating.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Actually, the anniversary of his death was just on Sunday. So
Mm,
it's been very fresh in my mind. I mean, I think about him every day. I miss him and love him every day. We got married on 8/8, and so the infinity symbol has always been our sign, and he gave me different pieces of jewelry and earrings and things with the infinity sign. So it's funny how now that he's gone, it's like, well, we'll always have our love for each other anyway, even with him gone.
mm,
But for a lot of people, after they become widowed, it's it's like they get really stuck and they just can't move on. And it was interesting because I gave it a year of, I'm not going to try to be in a relationship for at least a year. I'm not going to change my job. I'm not going to move out of the house. Like everyone was telling me not to make these big, huge decisions too quickly and to wait at least a year. And it was 1 year later that I met Tim, who I've been with now for the last almost 6 years. And there were people around me, and this is something that I think we all deal with, and especially women as we age, people have all kinds of expectations of us. And they just want us to be a mom, and they don't want to hear about our sex life. Or they just want us to be the grandma or the teacher or whatever it is that's the role that's comfortable for them. And for me, it was like people just wanted me to be the grieving widow.
mm,
And not everyone, but there were definitely some people that couldn't fathom me moving on or dating, probably because in my shoes, they wouldn't have been able to do the same thing. But I felt really, really sure about it. Like me sitting around with all of his stuff in our house without him is really not doing him any favors. And I do want to continue to honor him and his presence and his existence and his life, but also, he's not there anymore. And so I'm really glad that I did end up following my own heart and my own desires, because now I've been in this really beautiful relationship that is conscious and healthy and loving and so full of joy, and I've been able to grow even more through this relationship that I'm in. I'm so grateful to be here and to have the family that I have. My son is graduating high school this year, and my
yay.
bonus daughter is the same age, so she's also graduating from high school this year. So that's a little bit of my story. After my husband passed away, I did leave my job about a year later. And I had been in corporate HR, talent acquisition. I was in a cushy 6-figure senior manager role. And I just realized what's really important in life and what I'm really good at and what I really want to do. And I studied psychology and had planned on being a therapist, and then kind of changed my mind and went into business. So I ended up going and becoming a matchmaker, which was this blend of psychology and recruiting. And it was really fun. And I have couples that are married now that I set up. I worked with a lot of widows and older women because I was one of the matchmakers on the staff that had actually been widowed and gone through that. They would often connect those clients with me. So that was really fulfilling, to just be able to connect and help people through that familiar process of moving on with dignity and honoring their partner, but also respecting that you're still alive and you still have desires and you still have needs, and we need relationships in our life. I mean, we are tribal creatures, it's built into our DNA, we crave it. And so if we can have it and be that lucky, then it's, a wonderful gift in our life. So the matchmaking led me to get really curious about why some people it was working out, and then other clients, I would set them up on date after date and it wasn't working out, even though I'm sending them exactly what they say they want. And I started to get really curious about that. So I did my coaching certification and started coaching my clients. And then around 2020, I stopped the matchmaking and went into just coaching. And it's really evolved over these last 6 years since it started. And so now what I do is I teach people how to date, like which app should I join and what picture should I use, and just kind of the practical nitty gritty things. How do I meet people if I don't want to use online dating? Things like that. But I also help them because we all have these internal blocks, old memories, triggers, wounds, immature areas in our life, and a lot of things that we don't even see, spiritual blocks that we're just not even aware of. And so while I'm guiding people through the process and helping, encouraging, motivating, supporting them, I'm also stopping and helping them to address what's really at the root of these challenges. And yeah, it's been amazing. I have some really awesome success stories that just really keep me going.
That's amazing. Well, of course, I'm sorry to hear that your husband passed away. That is a really tragic event, and you don't wish that on anybody. And I've known other people that that's happened to, and some have gone on to date, and some have just decided not to. I'm curious with your partner, Tim, did you get back into the dating app scene, or did you meet him organically? Like, how did that work? And um, yeah, curious about that.
So for me, it was kind of unique because I was working as a matchmaker at the time. So even before I was ready to date, I was on the online dating sites recruiting and telling people, hey, nice to meet you. I'm a matchmaker. I want to introduce you to someone. And if they would ask about me, I would just very clearly say, I'm a widow, my husband just died, and I'm not ready to date. And they'd be like, okay, like that's one way to get someone to back off real quick, because that's just a lot for them to deal with. So it was interesting because I really got to see a lay of the land. I got to see who's really out there, because we're so used to this economy of immediacy that whatever we want, we can get, right? If you want green sunglasses with polka dots, you could find them, I'm sure, within a few minutes. And the next thing you know, they're at your doorstep 2 days later. So we don't realize how much that is sunken into our personalities. And we think that with dating, that it should just be that easy. That if I know what I want, I just go out there and I pick it up and I get it and it's done. And we know that that's not really how it works. We're human, we're people. They're going to have flaws and they're also going to have desires. And you want to find someone, rather than that mismatch thing I talked about earlier. You want to find someone that's on your level, that wants you, they want. So anyway, it was really interesting for me, like the research that I was able to do just by talking to guys of all different ages and different parts of the country, and getting to hear from them, what are you looking for in a woman, in a relationship, all of these things. So when I saw Tim, it was funny, he was actually in our database, and I was scrolling through the guys, and I started out looking at what they were looking for in a woman. And I did a double take at this one because I was like, that sounds exactly like a friend describing me. Like, who's this guy that's looking for me? And so then I started looking at his profile, and we just had a lot of really interesting things in common. We each had one child that was 11 years old, both into music and dancing and just certain things. And I was like, he was 11 years older than me. So I was like, yeah, he's older than I wanted, but he's kind of cute. So I reached out to someone and said, hey, I have a match for him. It's me. And, it took us about 3 months to go on our first 4 dates. We took it slow. We were living an hour and a half apart from each other, which I could like to call a medium distance relationship. So we kind of took it slow in the beginning, and I had to teach myself, this was part of my growth, to let go of the outcome, to just trust and not get anxious and not worry about it. I remember coming home from a date and feeling like, oh my God, I blew it. And I was like, wait a minute, stop it. Don't think that way. If you blew it, then it's not meant to be. Don't worry about it. And that was a big part of why we ended up together, I think, was because I did let go of those old patterns that I had had in the past. Yeah, so that's how we met. So it's kind of an interesting story. Not exactly online, but not
It's,
exactly in person.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, really kind of organic still. It's like within your work. It's kind of like this is someone I met through work almost, like through my business. And
I mean, it's kind of more like I met him through a dating app because I saw his profile before I ever saw him. So I was reading about him, but I had a lot more information because I had all the other matchmakers' notes about him. I could even see notes about his dates, which was kind of weird, but it worked
um,
out. We're really well matched, and I couldn't be happier in a relationship now.
oh, I'm so happy for you. That's wonderful news. And also it gives people hope that, even after a traumatic event like a death, or a divorce, that there's still hope to find your person or find someone that you want to go through life with. So I'm older. I'm in my mid 60s. And, in our day, we pretty much got together organically, usually through high school, college, or whatever. You met at a wedding or a party or, a bar. Although there was such a thing called the want ads. There literally
Yeah.
was the want ads, like looking for a specific partner. Um, why do you think that we need to rely so much on dating apps now? And what would people do or could they do if there wasn't such a thing? Which there is, but
When was the last time you bought a car?
oh, it's been a really long time. All right, 2012.
Okay. If you think about how we used to buy cars in the 70s, in the 80s, you just went to the car lot and you looked around at what was there and you tested some out and you're like, I'll take this one. Nowadays, probably even in 2012 when you bought your last car, but definitely now in 2024, we're going to research the heck out of it. We're going to know everything about that car before we ever go to a lot. In fact, we buy them from the Carvana vending machine now where we just know what we know because we've done the research, we've looked it up, and that's kind of how dating has changed. So people who are actively dating and using online dating, they'll tell you that when they're out like at a restaurant or a bar, it's very weird for them because they're like, wait, I don't even know how old this guy is. I don't know if he's divorced. I don't know if he has kids. I don't know what he wants. And we've gotten really used to having all of that information up front with the dating apps. And so it can be a little bit strange now, which is, it's weird that it's weird, right? Because it shouldn't be weird. It should be normal that you meet someone and you don't know them yet. But our whole society is so scared and so guarded and so anxious these days and there's so much danger out there that we like don't want to talk to anyone new. And meet new people and go through that whole thing of finding out about them. A lot of people are not doing that, especially post-pandemic. We're just in this epidemic of loneliness where some people haven't even touched another human for more than a year. It's wild. So that's kind of the evolution of what's happened with online dating. 1 in 3 marriages today starts from an online introduction. And even more than that, when you're talking about just relationships together, that's where everyone is meeting today. If you look at the statistics, online dating apps is number 1 for how people meet. No longer are they meeting through school, work, church. I mean, imagine how many people are working remotely now. And once we're a little older, if we're retired and we're not, like, it has gotten harder to meet people. So online dating, it's not really dating, first of all. It's simply a way to meet people that you could date. So whether you go out to events, meetups, visiting friends, going to the wedding, whether you meet people that way or you meet them through online dating, the whole purpose is to get in person with them,
Yeah.
right? You got to smell their pheromones and feel their energy and see their body language and notice how you feel around them. And so I think that's the biggest piece about online dating that people are doing wrong is that they're trying to make all these big decisions based on a profile. Like, could I see myself marrying this guy? It's like, no, you just need to see if you could see yourself having a date. Just go one day at a time, one date at a time, one person at a time, because online dating just has so much quantity, and everybody will tell you the quality is a little hard to find. It does exist, it is in there. There's a lot of great people, but they're just mixed in with lots of undateable people. Like the undateable people, you have to think about it logistically or logically, that the undateable people keep coming back into the dating pool, right? They didn't make that relationship work, they come back. They can't make this one work, they come back. So there's like a disproportionate number of people who are either unable to have a healthy relationship or unwilling or don't want to, or they're using and abusing. Like there's just a larger percentage of people doing that than actually represent the total number of single people. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but yet all the pieces of hay are like bugging you and bothering you. So I always tell people, don't get distracted by all the hay. Just
Yeah.
focus on finding your needle and finding somebody that is really interesting.
Which may be easier said than done, because you may have to sift a lot. What interestingly, my daughter, after she got divorced, and then she had a relationship with someone she knew organically. When then that one ended, she decided to try online dating, and she had a few prospects, and then there was just this one who like fit all the criteria,
Yep.
and she really vetted him. I mean, she knew people in his industry. She checked him out. And then they had a bunch of conversations before they had their first date, and then bam, they fell in love. I was shocked. I was like, I knew this worked, but I just didn't think it worked that fast. And I would imagine patience has to be something that people would have to, cultivate in order to stay in the game and find the right person. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And what most people do is they half-ass a profile and they don't know what they're doing and they put it up and they start talking to people and they meet 3 people, and out of those 3, nothing happens. One's working on an oil rig and has a 6 kid that they're trying to get money for, and you're like, he's not even real. And then another one just acts inappropriate too soon, and you're like, ew. And so then they give up.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it doesn't work because I went on and I tried and I met 3 people and those 3 people were not good. And that's just, you have to be strategic. And I work with so many women that are highly accomplished, really amazing entrepreneurs and professionals in their field, and they know about strategy. They know that you have to not only set a goal but also do the work and be tactical. And yet when it comes to their dating life, it's like it all goes out the window and they're like clueless. And it's so fun for me to be able to like be the interpreter, the guide, the one to show them, no, no, look, you understand strategy and business and this and acquiring clients and the funnel and all these things, right? Let's now relate that to your dating life. And meanwhile, all the emotional triggers that make it so hard, I'm helping them work through with embodiment and somatic healing, so that they don't get stuck in the process.
Well, that's what I love about what you do. I mean, you and I are both in the personal development business, in the personal development space. We are, I would say, human behavior experts. And you can help the unhealthy people too. You called them maybe undateable, and they're probably just unhealthy. And if they are struggling as well, then they could use your support also because, um, and you just hope that they come across a podcast like this or some of your information because it's like the world, really, the character of the world is lower level. When
Yeah.
you're looking at
Yeah.
big numbers, and we do have to sift through character, chemistry, values, all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So here's a question. Do you see trends in the behavior of women and men now in the dating world, such as like expectations being too high or unreasonable, that kind of thing?
Yeah. One of the big things that I notice now is that because of our advances in feminism, and I will say I'm a feminist. I hope that we're all feminists. The definition of a feminist is simply someone that wants equal rights for men and women. However, there's always a trade-off. And while women have stepped into the workforce and stepped into more of our masculine energy, we there's this shift that's happening around what we expect of men. And we want men to be more well-rounded also. We're like, I don't want you to just be big tough man. And there's a lot of men that have taken their masculinity and turned it into toxic masculinity. But the reality is we want, okay, I'm not going to overgeneralize everyone, but women with a feminine essence want a man with a masculine essence in any relationship, even gay, straight, queer, same sex, or traditional. It's like there's one partner that's more of the feminine partner who fills in the space and brings the vibe and maybe is more emotional in their thinking and communication. They're more interested in the relationship and the connection. And then the other person that's more of the masculine side partner who is planning and doing and making sure that things happen and creating structure and providing. And this has really gone out the window for a lot of people, right? No longer are we in that old way where we needed the other partner. But now we don't realize that just like you could sit and eat Oreos all day long if you want to, but our bodies are not really designed for that. Our evolution hasn't really caught up to our scientific creations when it comes to what we ingest. And our dating patterns, we still have the same old hard wiring underneath that makes us attracted. And so a lot of times when we are strong, powerful, awesome, capable women, and we're like, well, I don't need a man to do anything for me, you won't get one. Because with that mentality, you're always going to be competing with a guy. You're going to be having that chip on your shoulder, trying to prove yourself, or only accepting guys that are more in that feminine role and will kind of let you make decisions for them or tell them what to wear and what to do. And then women can often think that that feels really good at first because it feels safe and easy, but then all of a sudden they're just not turned on and they're just not attracted. And so that's what the masculine and feminine energy is there for. It's like in nature, a positive ion and a negative ion floating around will magnetize towards each other and become a new molecule. So this masculine feminine thing, it's really there to create attraction, to create friction, to create this polarity because there are opposite sides of the same spectrum. And both are powerful. A lot of women have these preconceived notions that femininity is about following, it's about being weak, it's about shutting yourself down, and that is so not true. Our feminine energy can be magnetic and powerful, and we can accomplish a lot through our feminine energy when we know how to use it. So I don't know, I just went on a long tangent and talked a lot about that, but the masculine feminine thing is definitely one of the big challenges I see today.
Well, you answered the question from the standpoint of, um, when you said something like women don't need a man today. Like women, have that thought, I don't really need a man today. I think what I'm hearing a lot is that a lot of women are like, I have these expectations of this man that I'm going to meet, and he has to make a certain amount of money, and he has to have a certain kind of education and drive a certain kind of car. And it's very materialistic. And I wonder if you're seeing some of that because we're
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
it. We're
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
it on YouTube anyway.
So I wish I had this visual for you, but I'll try to paint the picture of the statistics today. So
Yeah.
if you picture like all the women that are dating and all the men that are dating, and you have up to 100% of both, most of the women, something like 90% of the women, are going after the top 10% of guys. And they're swiping left on 90% of guys. If they're not 6 feet, if they don't make six figures, if they have one picture where they look a little weird, if they don't know how to take pictures, if they just have ugly selfies, like there's so many things, and we're just judging on superficial things. And that's one of the big problems with online dating is that it programs us into this Tinder mentality of yes, no, good enough, not good enough. And we become really judgmental, and it kicks in all of our dopamine receptors and all these things in our brain that wire us to be judgmental. And that's not good for life, let alone dating. We need to be compassionate. We need to be understanding, patient, accepting. Like, this is what we need in dating. We need more respect for other people. We need more patience, more compassion. People often ask me what to do if they go on a really bad date. Maybe they just don't look like their pictures, or you just know right from the first moment. And I say, well, first of all, never plan a first date to last more than an hour. You don't want to be stuck with someone for like a 5 hour concert and dinner and a show and all
Right.
this.
That's good advice.
But you could spend 1 hour with anyone. Get to know this person. Find out about what makes them tick. What are they passionate about? Practice being your most authentic self. Practice date conversation, which is a little bit different than regular conversation, right? We want to talk about our feelings and the things that inspire us, the people that inspire us. We want to open our heart. Yes, even on date number one, this is a tricky concept for a lot of people too. And there's a great book called Deeper Dating if you want to go more into this. But our dating world has just become so stupidly superficial that people are basing all their information on the wrong things. So if you look at that group of all the single men, and we're all going after the top 10%. Imagine what that top 10% guy is doing. I mean, he either is getting snatched up pretty quickly, or he's like, guys have this saying, like, she's trying to sink her teeth into me, right? She's trying to cling on to me. And it's like, a lot of these guys that are avoidant, it's like they've been pushed into it because they're not really ready for the level of relationship. Or they get this grass is greener mentality where they think that because they have so many options, because they are one of those top 10%, yeah, you could see many, many ways that that can go wrong. And not to say that all those guys are bad guys. You could definitely have a guy that is, ticks all the boxes and is a great person. But most of us are overlooking all the guys that are a 6, a 7, an 8, who could have massive potential for being there for us. Like, I encourage people to just go on dates. Like, just go on 20 dates. Like, I was talking to a girl this morning and she's like, I'm so tired of it. I'm like, you've been on one date. What are you talking about? Like, go out, go to a singles event, have fun. Like, it can't be a job and a chore and this thing that you just have to get through to get a partner. Like, that's why I love working with people, because there's so much that they don't know that they need to work on.
Let's talk about that. So give us one example of how a woman can start doing the inner work necessary to gain the confidence to be a player and, just to go have fun and make it a game, What could
Yeah.
they do?
So when you work on yourself, we got to think about who yourself is.
Yeah.
And the self is your mental self, your emotional self, your physical self, and your spiritual or energetic self. And so we can grow in all of those areas. And
Yes.
most of us focus on the physical, right? I got
Yep.
to lose 10 pounds before I can start dating. And it's like, no, maybe you don't. Like, maybe just, but we think about that physical piece being really important, right? Oh, I got to eat better. I got to exercise. And that's true. And it's great when we can do that. But are we also addressing our mental self? Are we learning? Are we learning new ways to communicate? Are we clear about why our past relationships haven't worked out? Have we learned from that? And then there's the emotional healing. So a lot of us, we learn and we read books and we grow mentally, but still don't grow emotionally. And that involves a lot of our fight or flight, our fear responses, our programming, our triggers. And we often need help to see how those are affecting us still, because we don't know. It's like a fish doesn't know it's in water. We don't know that we're in air. We just can't even see our own blocks and triggers. And then the spiritual and energetic side. So we can't, I mean, some people might only work on the spiritual and energetic side, and they're getting Reiki and doing crystal baths and sound baths, and they're doing all that, but yet they're not doing the other pieces. So when we talk about doing the work, the best way is to have a balanced approach where we are considering our physical body, our physical health. I teach feminine embodiment. So I talked a little bit about the importance of our feminine energy. If we want a man that is strong and capable and can dress himself and, just those basic things, then we need to learn how to step into that feminine energy. And there's no one way to do it. It's not a prescriptive thing. It's not about what you're wearing and how you look even. It's about your energy. And so we do that from the inside out, exploring our own body and our own energy and our own feminine flavor. And so that's a really fun thing, because it does incorporate our energy, our mental self, our emotions, all of it. Yeah, yeah, so much.
There is so much. There's so many variables too. And I was thinking, like, I think I told you once, I knew a woman, I know a woman, she's an acquaintance of mine. She too lost her husband, and she took a while to get back into the game of dating, but she did. And interestingly, she was just looking for a good time. And we as women, we usually think of men being that way. Oh, he's just looking for sex, and he doesn't really want to get to know me, right? Well, that's what she was looking for.
Yep.
I'm just looking for a good time. Don't anyone fall in love with me. And lo and behold, after several dates, she found somebody who she just couldn't resist because he
Yeah.
was he was just crazy about her, and she became crazy about him. So anyway, there we could talk about this all day long, I think, Whitney, but we probably need to end somewhere. So, I think I should have you on again because I've got all these questions that I didn't get to. But let's find out where people can find you. Tell us where they can find you. Talk about Love Coach in My Pocket. I think that's just the cutest name for an app and a podcast. So,
Yeah, thank you. And yes, I'd love to come back on and answer more specific questions. I can be reached at whitneykobrin.com. So it's Kobrin. I'm the only Whitney Kobrin out there. So if you search me on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever, you will find me. And yeah, I just started my new podcast called Love Coach in My Pocket. So I think by the time this is out, I'll have some episodes out there for you. And what else? And the app is available in your app store, both Apple and Android, called Love Coach in My Pocket. It's right now geared more towards women. I have some partners that I work with that coach men. I just really like to be able to focus on the feminine energy piece and working with women.
yeah,
But the men need help too.
they
Trust
do.
me, we're working on helping them as well. And I have a freebie on the website. I have a few actually. One, you can schedule a consultation with me, but there's lots of information about my programs and what I offer if you want to just look through that. But I'm happy to have a conversation if you want more info. And there's also a freebie that is how to get more in real life dates from dating apps. And I think it's so important if you are going to go online, if you are going to try to find love, it's not about the chit chat and the swiping. Like, it's about getting on real dates. So this is a really valuable resource to help you get in the mindset and the communication style to actually get asked out and go on real dates, because that's the only way you're ever going to really know.
All right. Well, this has been so fun. All right, everybody who's listening, you can find Whitney at Whitney, Whitney, Kobrin, KOBRIN.com. She's got Love Coach in My Pocket starting very soon. She's already started it. It's just she's getting it streaming to all the apps very soon. So thank you so much for Whitney. Thank you for joining me today. This is so much
My
fun.
pleasure. Yeah,
This is
I
such
knew,
a
Lisa, that we had to do this.
this is such a great topic, and I will invite you back. So thank you everyone for listening to My Golden Life, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a beautiful day.